going back to the last thing that me and my mom said before they ended up giving her medication to help sedate her, she got to talk to us for a little bit longer. And it was one of the things she said, and I told her was, make sure you give me a sign. When she passed away, I was the one who did her whole funeral, and that was a challenge for myself, but I feel like out of her family, somebody to honor her the most, that's what she deserved for sure. And my dad and my sister, they thought I would be the right one for the job. I had a lot of people tell me, I'm proud of you and you're doing great things with it and you're moving in the right direction and stuff. But in my head, that was a given. And I say that because failure was never an option. I was going to figure it out and I was going to keep moving. Welcome to FUELISH Behavior. I'm your host, Adam Thompson, and today's episode, Before It All Was. Before It All Was. I have some pretty funny stories, kind of building up to the entrepreneurial stuff that I had, that I had got to where I am and how you get there. And so I've mentored some people, talked to some people, went down different avenues of different things, and thought I would share just the history of myself. And what better to share the history of myself than just have myself on here. So let's get started. The first part of this is just coming up in grade school and whatnot. So actually the ironic part, I think me and Amanda touched base on this in our first podcast, but me and her had taken Spanish 1 and 2 back in middle school, and she had left our middle school in 8th grade, so 6th, 7th. I had known her, and the irony and fate would bring us together. And so we ended up getting married years later down the road. But so I have a little bit of Spanish in my background. I can say like pencil and paper. That's about it. I can say hi and bye. Good day. But as far as my knowledge of Spanish, it kind of stops right there. Fast forward, 10 years later, I was working with my dad, got my plumbing license. I maintain that every year. I have to take a continuous ed class every year just to maintain it. I really don't do much with it, just have a license. But that license actually got me a job at a large box store. They hired licensed plumbers to help people that do it-yourself jobs. They come in and they can pick the brain of somebody that knows a little bit about what they're doing. And in that, I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and a position opened up at a front desk. The hours changed a little bit better hours. It was a lateral move, so the pay didn't get much better, but I did interview, got the job. We moved forward in it, and I was in it for about, 6 months or so. Actually was pacing to set the record in that store for what more than that position has ever brought in. And so I'm on pace for the yearly record. You get badges and rewards and different things. So that was significant to me. So I was setting that pace. And about 6 months into it, I had a district manager do some, probing in that. And apparently this position was a Spanish speaking position. And so in the interview, when I was asked, do you speak Spanish? I mean, don't we all? And so the answer was yes. And I got the position and was doing great at it. And they did not feel an English-speaking associate would do pretty good at that job, so they were looking to put a bilingual guy in there. And one day I was helping a customer, and the customer had walked off, and this district manager walks up to me, and I mean, the most older military white guy you would ever meet comes up to me and starts speaking Spanish like fluently, as if he would lived in Mexico his whole life. And it caught me off guard. I didn't really know what to do other than just stare at him. And my instinct was, first of all, you don't know what he is saying at all. And so, one, I'm trying not to get fired right here on the spot. But number two, there's really no out for this. So I looked at him and said, I don't have time for this. I got customers to help. And I walked off and didn't hear another word. Didn't hear another word until about 2 or 3 weeks later, and they approached me. They were confused how this happened, how they got this non-bilingual and this bilingual position. And Long story short, they put me back in my old position, which is humiliating. I mean, it was a humbling experience and stuff, but that was the end of my road to work your butt off and move up. And it was just it was a journey. You can go work wherever you want and do whatever you do. I know jobs actually in the industry we're in. Sometimes the only way to get a raise in this job is to move companies and interview and request a certain salary, and you get it, and that's how you get the raises. Jump in different companies, and so. I think sometimes in a time that we're in, we get accustomed to what was and not what will be or what is. And I think that's kind of where we're at in a time frame as well with college. Not to say I'm against college or anything, but trades, I think, is a dying thing that we're not teaching these young guys and young women to come up and learn these trades instead of we're pushing them to go to college and do this and do that. And that's just the way it goes. But, college isn't built for everybody, and I'll stand by that. But I definitely pride for anybody that goes to college and gets a degree. But it's just proven that the majority of people that come out of college with a degree, they're usually not doing something that even needed that degree, or even needed a degree altogether. And so it just kind of changes, how much money did you spend and what all did you do? I have a little bit of college background in myself, except what I ended up doing was in high school, you take a benchmark test and, they place you in college, and if you flunk it, which I did, because I did that traditional A, B, C, B, D, A, B, and just didn't take it serious at all. They got me in college, and they said, "Hey, you're an idiot. You're gonna have to start in these intermediate classes." And I was above that mentally, and probably arrogance was just like, no, we're not doing that. And so what I ended up doing was I had a general idea of what I want to do. So I went and took some psychology classes and marketing classes and did everything until finally the community college that I was in was like, you need to have a path, associates and all this stuff. So at that point I was out. I left. I dropped out of college and decided to pursue my own thing, which led up to the box store and some other things. I had some other business and some landscaping, some financial companies that I did, just different avenues, nothing crazy big, just stuff that kind of generated and did what I needed to do. And I gained the experience. That's part of starting a business and growing a business is to not quit in the midst of it all. But rather, learn from your failures, learn to get back up and mainly to hustle every day. When I started this company, I actually still have this table at our office. When me and my wife moved out of our house, we had a kitchen table, and there was a carpet that I tell all this story to all my guys. Every morning, I didn't have a job that woke me up and said, get going and do all this stuff. So every morning I would wake up at 4:00 in the morning, and my wife was a teacher, so she would wake up at 5 or 6, and I would have already beat her out, and I would be walking on this table on the laptop, doing all kinds of stuff, generating my call list, doing everything that I was going to do for that day. And I had myself an agenda. Being an entrepreneur is holding yourself accountable. It's making sure you are setting that next step for yourself, and then prepare for failure. If you fail at it, who cares? Move on and figure out what your next step is and how you're going to achieve. The irony of everything was, as we were growing, I had a lot of people tell me, I'm proud of you and you're doing great things with it and you're moving in the right direction and stuff. But in my head, that was a given. And I say that because failure was never an option. I was going to figure it out, and I was going to keep moving. And that's just how my mentality has been through any business I had until I either got to a point to sell it or however I got out of it. But I never quit on a business. It led me to a different adventure. And that was just the point of being an entrepreneur. And that's a success. I have had many jobs, multiple jobs at one time. And it was always my own company and a job. This and my company, or I was always doing something else as I was generating that company. And when we started this company, and I say we, my mom, my dad, I registered the business. I did everything you do to start a business, but I built platforms and I built systems that was prepared for the size that we are now. And I would teach my mom how to do the books and different things of when you have 12 guys, this is what it's going to look like. And when you have 20 guys and 30 guys, this is what it's going to look like. So we want to do these systems in this place. So even though my dad was our only tech and only had a few receipts coming in and a few paperwork coming in and certain customers and doing different things for different customers. They had their own protocols that they had to follow by using different portals or dispatch systems or whatever. And we had to submit everything through there and accept jobs and do everything. So I was just teaching her that as you do it this way, when everything builds up, you're prepared for it. So you have this giant base that prevents or helps prevent failure. And she did that for 9 years. It was the coolest thing to be able to work with your parents. Did we butt heads? Yeah, a little bit. But you always hear never work with family, never work with friends. I have a very strict mindset for myself, and then strict rules for everybody that comes and works at this company that we leave it at the door. When you walk in, you're not my friend, you're not my family. Your financial burdens are not my financial burdens. My financial burdens are not your financial burdens. We can talk about it, but it stays at the door. And when we leave, any frustrations in the business, something you disagree with, something goes, leave it at the door. You go out. You're my friend. You're my family. We can talk about work and be like, man, did you hear what that jerk of my boss or that one crappy employee? And they're like, hey, you're talking about me. But and it's humorous, and I'm a big believer in laughter. We keep that within the company. I'm known to be too silly. I'm known to joke around a lot, pull pranks. But it's to lighten the mood. It's to break up the monotony. It's to take some of the stress out of there so that we can get a laugh throughout the day. And it's contagious. So as much as bad moods and frustration stuff snowballs, so does comedy. And so as you start making jokes, they start making jokes. It becomes this, but then we have to turn around and get back on the level of seriousness. And so there's this common ground and this mutual respect we all have for each other that know the time, know the place. And it's pretty cool. I enjoy running a company. I enjoy doing the podcast and explaining and doing all these things. The following, the viewers that we have, we've gotten emails to the podcast at mcspetroleum.com. You can email questions, concerns, comments, whatever you want. We can answer, and we go in and we evaluate them and talk to them. We go in, we answer the emails there, and we can talk about it on the podcast. It's really cool. I mean, it's just a nice little adventure that we have going here, and that's what I call it. It's a journey that you all will take. Way back in the day, it was you had people going out getting food while people maintained the cabin and the culture and stuff, and they'd meet back up and everybody had a job. I mean, we're essentially still doing that today. It's just we've made society a little bit more easy to live in. That's why we can go to a grocery store and buy a steak and not have to go buy a cow, butcher it, and then make the steak. And that can tend to do a lot of other things. That's now allowing somebody to deal with your food instead of having it fresh. Or did that make the culture lazy that it's so easy to go or even now have food delivered to you? So I just I try to do this wisdom knowledge thing and kind of put perspective in everybody's. I bring God into our company all the time. I do these little one-on-ones with guys, and guys will come in and get ready for their Monday morning, and I'll be working, and I'll just see them kind of pulling up, and there you go. There's your church right there. It's a group of 2 or more people, and I say, let's get on it. And I just start kind of talking to them. They don't even realize it, and I'm not preaching at them, but just giving them a little insight for the week, letting them know that be safe, God's with you, and just have that little rundown. Maybe I crossed the line. I don't know. I don't know how people feel about it, but I'm definitely not ashamed to talk about my faith, and I'm definitely not too arrogant not to hear about somebody else's faith. And I'm just a question asker. Some people will call it conspiracy theorists or whatever, but you have every right. You have every right to ask a question regarding something that's confusing. My wife, being a teacher, she's always questioning. She's just asking in a way that she wants to just genuinely know the answer. When we have this back and forth, that's what I thrive for, is just let me get your opinion. I want to give you my opinion. If you want to listen to it, you can. If you don't, we can leave it at the door and you get the satisfaction that you got to say your piece, whatever. And if it starts getting a little elevated or something, I just call it quits and, hey, you're right, that's a good point, and leave it at that and get them on their way. That's what I've always learned, is there's 3 things you don't bring into a business, and that's politics, religion, and talking about finances. And so when you get into those depths, Is it impossible? Not at all. But when you start getting in those depths, the question is somebody getting worked up, or do you feel like it's getting touchy? You just have to feel that situation, and I'll back off, or we'll leave it at that what it is, and they'll go about their day. Back to my mom and my dad. If any of you watched the podcast with me and my wife, we kind of know where this story's going, but I worked together with my mom for 9 years before she got sick and inevitably passed away 5 months in 2024 from stage 4 lung cancer. I get to think back a lot of the times of working with her, and just the things she decorated my office for my birthdays. So that was cool. You know, you don't have really people do that at works anyways, much less having your mom go all out and decorate really good and celebrated my birthday. She was definitely my number one fan. When she passed away, I actually, I was the one who did her whole funeral, and that was a challenge for myself, but I feel like, out of her family, somebody to honor her the most, that's what she deserved for sure. And, my dad and my sister, a lot of my family, they thought I would be the right one for the job. One of the, things that I had done was really cool. My uncle plays the guitar, and my oldest daughter, she's the one in college. She sings. She's a really good singer, and so I think actually me and Amanda talked about this in our podcast, and she sang a song really, really good. She sang it really well, and it was just going back to the last thing that me and my mom said before they ended up giving her medication to help sedate her. She got to talk to us for a little bit longer, and it was one of the things she said, and I told her was, make sure you give me a sign. That song just hits on that very well. When I think about the whole history, I would take my mom out and I would do marketing, and she would come along with me, and we'd walk into different stores, and she would just get to watch me work, which is, she had told me that too, that it's really cool to watch somebody in their element and be able to do something that you can't. And so if there's one piece of advice I could tell anybody, is we all are good at something. Sometimes it's more obvious. You have an athlete who can run real fast or extremely strong, or somebody with a phenomenal voice can sing. You have very creative people that can write books, write movies, actors. But then there's stuff that is not so obvious. And that's the people that have a dynamic to them that can appeal to somebody on their level, or somebody who can market and just think of very creative and intelligent ways to promote something. You have psychological values to people that can read people and predict what they're about to say based off of body movement and different demeanors of how they act. And so to get out of your comfort and go just be with somebody, it doesn't matter who or when or what, or even just to pay attention when you're interacting with people at a restaurant or a grocery store or whatever, you end up really taking in these things that we miss on a day-to-day, especially in a world today that we're just rushed. Everything's so quick and spontaneous, and you find that you start learning things that you didn't realize. If I showed you a square and you're like, oh yeah, that's a square, it's got 4 sides and 4 angles. And if you're in kindergarten and you look at a square, you just see a shape, and you see that shape's different than another shape. When you start getting into geometry and math and different things, you start realizing there's angles, and these angles equal something. And because these angles match these angles and these sides are the same length, it makes a type of shape. And that then distinguishes this shape from that shape that look very similar. And when you start paying attention in life, you start really breaking down things that way too. And I really encourage everybody to start paying attention to that. We start focusing and paying attention to the world around us. We're more self-aware. We're more aware of our surroundings. We become more sympathetic or empathetic, either one. Sometimes it's good to be sympathetic, and sometimes it's good just to be empathetic. At least you can see a point and a reason for something. And as we do that, we start, does this guy need help changing his tire? Does this mom with 4 kids walking need help carrying her groceries? Me and my daughter the other day, we were, I say this the other day, we do this quite often. Anytime we're at a restaurant and I see somebody sitting by themselves eating dinner, I don't know why, and it doesn't really matter, but I'm like, put their tab on ours. And we want to be anonymous and whatnot, but the reason why we do that, I'm teaching my kids, it's to be aware of your surroundings, but you never know how that's going to affect their day. You don't know why someone's eating alone. It's nice when you can have somebody or a lot of people. I come from a large family that has dwindled down one reason or another. We have deaths in the family, and then we have just fallouts within the family, and now we have a Christmas of 50 people to 10. And so it makes life hard, especially when you come from that. My wife has a fairly large family, and they've actually dwindled down as well, but it just makes it a reality. And so when you go to a restaurant, you see somebody, you don't know their life. And if something happened to my wife and of course my family, I'm watching it do its thing, I could easily, with my kids growing up and they have their friends and they're out and about, I could find myself, hey, I want to go eat, but I have nobody. And I get out of my comfort zone, and now I'm sitting there eating alone, not by choice. And so I teach my kids, it's nice to have the comfort and company of people, whether it be 1 or 50. And so we will take on their bill and pay for that. And one day, not too long ago, we were doing that, and I guess the lady begged to know who it was. The waitress, I guess against her will, spilt the beans of who did what, and the lady just really broke down. She was just, thank you, God bless you, crying, and she couldn't believe it, had called somebody and was letting them know, and of course you don't know what's going on in their life, right? I mean, they're at a restaurant, surely they've got some money to pay the bill or whatever the case may be. It's just that extra step, letting them know somebody cares and somebody's paying attention. And so running a business is that same way. And I've paid attention. I've watched my employees or whatever, and even taken the advice of some employees. That a lot of employees that I have, I'll notice little things, and I'll have as much as a conversation of just, I'm proud of you, you're doing good. Then it comes to bonuses, or they get back in town and I've got groceries for them, or hey, what's going on? I'm running a little late. I spent too much money. This, whatever the case. Okay, well, let me help you out on some rent. Don't worry about it. It's just helping out where you can, because being in a good boat is a short-term thing, and I've realized that it is a very short-term thing, and I say that because there are many wealthy people who's lost it all. There's many illnesses, accidents that happen that change everything in the split second, and it's nice to know that there is somebody outside of us willing to help, and you can't ever ask for it. You just leave that to God on the blessings that he provides through people. And so you can be that blessing just as much as somebody can bless you. I don't even remember how I got here. That's the cool thing about podcasts is on episode 9 that I had Jerry and Andrew on, and we just trekked it. We went wherever it wanted to take us, and it's fun. You come up with stories. All these things start going back and forth, and it leaves us to a road that to me is very entertaining. If there's one thing I'd like to leave off on this is the things I wished I got to say, and realizing it's not too late to say it. But I started with my mom and dad. Jerry came on about 6 months after, and the cool story there is that he got fired from his job and called me and goes, hey, and I said, I know, come on, like, let's go. You come right on here and we'll just pick up where you left off. And he jumped on, and he's never turned back. He treats this like it's his business, just as my mom and my dad did. And the irony of everything was I had people in my mind that I'm like, if I ever start a company that grows to something that needs a lot of people, I had this hit list of people I would bring on. And I actually worked for a guy that when I first started the company, I told him, I was like, yeah, me and my mom and my dad are going to start doing this. And he said, you're going to work with your dad? And I said, yeah. I said, but would you work with your dad? And he said, no, not at all. His dad had a hard life and stuff. And I said, well, that's the difference. Like, he's my dad, but when it comes to a business, you want the most strong guys that is going to help you grow this business, and not somebody that's just going to be weighing down on it. And that's what he is. My dad's probably one of the hardest workers I know growing up. That's all I knew him as, is just work hard at everything you do. And so I just surrounded myself with all these guys that have that. We have a family friend, Jerry Rios. I don't know, I can maybe get him on here. That would be a entertaining episode. I can promise you that. And Daryl, I get him on here. We talked about him a couple of times. I mean, extremely hard work. He is hands-on, hates the office, but man, you give him a duty and he's at it. There's a guy that I follow, and he doesn't talk about this kind of stuff at all, but one episode he talked about it, and he said there's 4 kinds of people. There's one person that sees something that needs to be done, he goes and does it, and then he's doing and looking to do more. And that's usually your business owner. And then you have somebody, hey, what else do you need me to do? Like the business owner doesn't need somebody to tell them, they just go and do it. Whereas this guy is like, hey, what can I do? I want to stay busy. That's where Daryl falls. Rios, my dad, my mom, all of them fell right there in that platform. Jerry, he's in that mix of a business owner and that. Like, he knows something needs to be done. He doesn't have to ask to do it. And you have the next level that you can ask them to do whatever and they'll do it, but they need to be asked. And then you have the next level of the guy that you have to be very specific, because that's as far as they go. For instance, hey, I need you to go sweep that floor. Well, they swept it, but they didn't get the dustpan and finish the job. And so you got these 4 versions of people, and it seems like everybody that I surrounded myself by in the first 3, 4, 5 years, I brought my brother-in-law, Steven, guy Kenneth, phenomenal worker, and you bring them on and they have that mentality of, I don't need to ask. I don't need to be asked. You give me a job, I'm going to go do it. And it was just a cool thing, building your team around that, and then it trickles down. Friends know friends. They've got family. They got this. And next thing, we've got 20, 30 technicians surrounding us, and we've been through terminations. We've been through, luckily, nothing too crazy over the years that we've had to let go and then bring back and do some things. We had a guy that we actually had a few guys we let go. I think like 4 or 5 of them we let go, and we brought them back 6 months, 7 months, a year down the road. That they came back, they were licensed, they had a whole new mentality. When you have to go find another job, that makes it super hard and it's stressful and it's burdening. And are you going to find a job that's as good as your last one, that has the benefits that you could make a career out of? And so when I offered to bring them back, I approached them. I think there was one that approached us first. I said, yeah, come back, but what did we learn? Like, we're not tolerable of the work ethic that we had, and we're not tolerable of the things that happened. And it was, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And I haven't had an issue with not one person that we brought back. I haven't had an issue. So to me, it's a cool thing. We see stuff and we work around it, and it's about setting the standard. If you can make sure you're setting the standard, you usually typically cover all bases before they can happen. And then we talk about, well, what we know better. We know better than that. And so what's the consequences, or what's the repercussions? Given all that of the history and the technicians that we have, I would like to personally thank every one of them. To my mom, obviously, I couldn't have done this without her. Building the systems, and her genuine and faithfulness, and then just her lovingness to me and to everybody in this company, and how much we could rely on her. And she just kept things together. We worked through COVID, and she went out and she built COVID kits, what we call them, with alcohol spray. She had to make a concoction of some stuff, and got rags and wet wipes and masks and all this stuff and gloves. And she took care of everybody. My dad, that just, there was no stopping. We had a mission, and he was on it. We were on it, and we had this understanding. And if I had an issue, the coolest part, I've approached him, and I did it in the wrong ways. I did it in the right ways, and he never held any of them against me. And we just kept on moving. Jerry, like I said, he came on just straight off of a company, and he was like the Roadrunner. His feet are moving and spinning, but his body's just floating. And I say that because there was nothing nothing that he wouldn't have done for this company or wouldn't do for this company. And it shows even still today. He's more of a partner than he is an employee here. And he's been on this episode, and I've told him how much I appreciate him, but just to genuinely tell him, I appreciate you. Jerry Rios, family friend that came on, he's if I had my AC go out or an electrical problem or whatever, I can call him and he'll be right there in a heartbeat. He's reliable. He's got a heart in it, and he knows what needs to be done, and he will get it done. It may just take him a little longer than most people do it, but man, he is a strong worker. Steven, my brother-in-law, there was actually one day I was at their house and we were all on the porch and we were all hanging out, and he looked me right in the eye and he said, "You're going to make something one day. You're going to be something one day." And I don't second guess it at all. And he just has just been there. I mean, he's a motivator. He pushes and builds you up. And I can appreciate that. And I can appreciate having that around that brings me up. Kenneth was right after that. The one thing about Kenneth is we had a falling out before I brought him back. And I don't like to place blame and say fault. There may be things we could have done different, things he could have done different. But when he come back, he took full responsibility, was the coolest thing. But I tell everybody, if there's one thing I never questioned about what he did, was I never questioned his work ethic. You can call in sick and you can do whatever and all, but you have a job, and if you have to question if they're doing their job right, never once questioned his work ethic. It goes down the line. Daryl, we talked about just, a powerhouse. I've got Mikey. I hope to have him on the show one day. Just the mentality that he has, and the life that he lived, I can appreciate how he is. And he came on young. A lot of these guys that came on after Daryl, the progressiveness that we went, they were all young. I hired Jerry's son. I would get him on here, but we actually talked about him last episode. He's like the turtle that scare me. Head goes in his shell. He's just a quiet person. And then I've got probably 5 or 6 other guys that are just under 25 that I'm teaching them. Josh was on here. Evan was on here. Just bring them on here and get the perspective and kind of talk about what it looks like. And the main thing I like to get out of it is we're teaching you how to be a man. We're teaching you what life looks like. We're teaching you what jobs look like. We're teaching you everything that we can teach you as men and pass this torch on to y'all, that when you get older, you can be a good husband and a good father. You can be where we're at, teaching the younger generation to be able to carry this world, because God knows it needs it. And then I guess lastly, my wife, she was on here. She's sometimes made this challenging, running a business and stuff. And sometimes she's praised and she's amazed and she does things and says things. And there's one thing that I can appreciate her is that when everything's all said and done, she's thankful. And I can genuinely feel that from her. Thankful to God for providing everything. Hopefully I fulfilled my shoes of being a husband and a father, and provided for my family. And like I said, I'm very aware. At the end of the day, if we can step out of ourselves and just pay attention to the world around us, I think that's the first step of success. The Bible teaches us it's better to give than receive. And if we can make sure that we're doing for others, if we're living selflessly, it's what is going to make the success happen for your family, for you, for everybody else. Living selflessly is a huge step in being successful in a business and life. Living selflessly, we're able to help others in ways that they need help and they don't know it, or help others when they're not able to ask for that help, but it's clear. And so it's just a good way of living. And to me, that's the stuff that if you're going to be successful in a business, you're going to be pretty successful in life. At the end of the day, just being a good person, that's what we live for. And I'm just a guy trying to do his best. And I hope everybody in this company sees that. I hope we can reflect that to each other, and they can reflect that to their family, friends, and everybody else in their life, and just kind of be that domino effect going out there and maybe turn this world around with the same kind of work ethic. But that's it, man. That's a short little episode. Thought I would just end this on a episode 10 and in season 1. Kind of give a little background, just straight from my mouth. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out at podcast@MCS Petroleum. Again, I'm your host, Adam Thompson. This is Foolish Behavior, sponsored by MCS Petroleum. And that's all we got today. Have a good afternoon.